Okay, well, we're going to open up the Finance and Operations Committee meeting. We're opening up the Finance and Operations Committee meeting Tuesday, February 13th at the School Administration Building at 6:38 p.m. And going to take a roll call. Mr. Garino is here. Mr. Mosher is here.
Yeah.
Ms. Van Twyver
Here.
is here. We have a quorum. Other attendees, Mr. Donovan is here. Dr. Mosley here. Dr. McKinney is not here. We have Lisa Gingras, Dottie Oden, President, and
Sean Smith.
Sean Smith. And we also have Liam Snoggles here, Eagle Scout candidate. Which is first on the agenda, and I'm gonna turn over the floor to Liam, and he's going to tell us about his Eagle Scout project.
So, good evening. My name is Liam Snoggles. I am from Troop 773, from Nashua, New Hampshire. For my project, I've been asked to make 2 buddy benches and some pavement art. I have 3 copies of this if you just want to pass it around to the other board members to look at. This one's just a little bit more. This one's just about, it's clear.
That's better, it's clearer.
Just is it?
Yeah.
For the second page.
Yeah, the other pages are clearer.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
So, as you may know, in elementary school, there's been a bit of a bullying problem with bullying being a bad thing, like up from elementary all the way to high school. So, Mrs. Bolio from Charlotte Ave Elementary School, she wanted me to make the buddy benches and the pavement art. She's seen it around in other schools, and she thought that it would be a good idea if I did it, since I was looking to do an Eagle project. So I agreed. I have come up with designs for it, which would be on page 5 of 8, and that shows the blueprints for it. Some of the copies, they may not be there, but that's why there's the other one.
Yep, we got it.
So they're going to be made out of pressure treated wood and painted green and white of the school colors. And the pavement art will be made with a special kind of additive in it that'll make it non-slippery, so that it won't be slippery in the rain. And I've gone with Ms. Bolio. She said it's a good idea. Mr. Smith thought it was also a good idea, and I'm here to ask for your permission for it.
Okay, thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the members of the committee if they have any questions or comments. I'm going to go with Mr. Mosher first. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I hear the scouting has always been a part of my life. I remember the oath and everything, and to see somebody come up and have such a detailed plan, I think will look very attractive. It's good that we apply some faith, especially for an Eagle Scout, because that is the highest rank you can get. And I think it's a good idea, and I like it. I like the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. Ms. Van Twyver?
Could you explain to me how the sundial works here?
So the sundial, basically how it works is that there's the time of day, and it works by the by the sun hitting your shadow with the clock going around. And standing on a certain tile on the day of the month, your shadow will be moved by it. There's a certain way you have to stand, and the sun hitting you will hit the shadow, and it will basically tell the time.
That's cool. So the individual is part of the sundial.
Yes.
Correct. I mean, right.
It has
Cool.
it involves a little bit of math, so it helps with like learning and everything.
And that's why you have the different months on here is because
Yes, that's
you're,
the idea of it.
it's gonna be different spot.
Yes.
That's really cool. I like that. So when is this gonna be done?
If I get approval, the construction will begin in the spring and maybe end close towards the summer, maybe.
So we will be invited to come see it when it's done.
I believe so. Yes.
I think this is a dynamite idea.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Donovan?
Yes, so the benches, are you gonna do it yourself, or are you gonna get some help?
The Boy Scouts from my troop will be able to volunteer. I may also get some Girl Scouts to help volunteer with that, and some other volunteers that may be able to help me constructing them. They will be built at my house in my garage. The pouring of the concrete will be done on site, and once we have the benches constructed, we'll be putting them onto the concrete.
So you're gonna bring a completed bench to the site and then do the pour, and I'm assuming we're gonna have someone there for the cement pour, Sean, or?
Yes.
So how big a badge do you get for this?
How big of a bench?
Badge.
Badge?
Yeah, like for on your shirt.
Oh, if I get this project completed and other requirements for it, I may be able to obtain the Eagle Scout, which is the highest ranking in Boy Scouts.
Congratulations. Wow.
Gotta make sure the benches work first.
Oh, well,
I don't be falling off the bench, we don't know.
And the sundial too.
yeah, we can make sure the sundial works.
So the sundial, if I'm tall and you're short,
The shadows should still work because
okay,
not all shadows are the same. So when the sun hits it, it should tell the same because it's telling basically the time, more or less. It doesn't matter the height; it should work.
Is it like the Aztecs
Good
or
question.
the Mayan used the sundial?
Yeah,
Like
between you and me, you know, the shadow could be quite different.
excuse me.
is that correct?
That is correct. That's basically how they did it, I believe. I'm no expert, but it seems.
So this type of bench has been used in other schools, correct?
Correct.
Same design, same construction, same materials?
Some people have made them with like bolted down into the ground or wood.
Mhm.
Some people just have like regular wooden benches. Mine are made to like so when they're in the ground, they're in the ground. They're not gonna move, and they won't be like picked up and like pushed over by the neighborhood kids if they have any ideas of doing it.
Okay.
Are they 3-seaters?
Well,
How many buddies can we get on the bench?
we don't do it by now, but I'm pretty sure maybe like 1 or 2, maybe 3.
Depends on what age they are, right? First graders, you get more than fifth graders.
That's right. That's right. Cool. So,
yes, sir.
Just, he is gonna check with Dig Safe as well before he starts the
Dig
project.
Safe.
Yes.
I don't think there's any utilities there, but that's why we have Dig Safe, just to make sure.
yeah, where is it going to be? Right in front of Charlotte?
So on the back of the packet there is a map. With the copies that I brought, they should have a better graphic. But there are two little. This is basically the back of the blacktop of Charlotte Ave. The black circles where the sundial is. The two black rectangles that's on the grass and near the playground. Those are the two buddy benches, and the long rectangle in the bus loop. That is where the solar system will go. For the other people.
Very nice.
Now, do we know if the buses line up there?
I haven't been there in a bit, but when they said that was the bus loop, that's where the buses will go down. I remember that happening a few times, but I'm pretty sure it's where they go.
It is where they go. A lot of them come out, there's an entrance right beside the gymnasium, which is sort of the top of the page, over in the corners, major exit area.
Is that a plus?
Are they idling there, do you think? The only reason I'm asking is they drop oil and stuff that might affect
Or
them.
exhaust fumes?
They shouldn't be idling. I mean, there's kind of a state prohibition against idling buses around schools.
So the solar system just shows the it just shows the solar system. The kids don't play on it, right? They're playing on the sundial.
The solar system is there for them to have like education to like learn
Okay.
about it and everything, to learn about the planets.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure there may be some like rules put down from the teachers about the solar system and everything.
Right.
But that's up to them.
Yeah.
I'm doing the project for the benefit of the school and helping to stop out bullying.
Okay.
So you just need approval. You don't need money, is that right?
No, I have money from donations from the school and other outside donations, and I'm going to be using my Scout account money.
And how much do you think this project is going to cost?
If I recall in the packet, it said how much? What did it say? It should cost. If I recall, it should roughly cost $800 maybe $800. So that should be enough for like to get the project done.
So when is your, you have to take this, once you get approval from
Yes.
the board, you have to go to another
Yeah.
Eagle Scout sort of interview or approval
So-
for this.
They want the Eagle Scout, the board, basically the Eagle Scouts, the board. They wanted me to get approval from the Board of Education first,
Okay,
and then come
Yeah.
back to them, and then they would sign it off because they wanted
Okay.
permission from the Board of Education
so,
first.
okay, so do you have a date for that, or you want it done as soon as you can, right?
I want it done as soon. My goal is to get it done before the summer is over, or like
Okay,
before the next year of kids come through,
okay,
because I want it to be there for some of the kids to enjoy.
right, because this is a committee, and I believe it'll go to the full board. Because when you asked me earlier, I said, oh yeah, we can approve it here, but then I just realized that this is probably gonna go to the full board, which will meet again, I think in a couple of weeks.
26.
Right, so that's when we can get a sign off for you for the full Board of Education. But I don't know if the Eagle Scout will just, Eagle Scout Committee will just approve, the committee approval, but you want the full Board of Education approval, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, so we'll, I don't think you should run into any problem. We'll put it on the agenda and we'll get you through, as long as you have enough time, because I know with Eagle Scouts, you're time constrained, and we could have it done in February for you, and that would be good for you.
Yeah.
The next Eagle Board meeting will actually be March 13th, so.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
good,
That'd be good.
yeah, well, that's good timing. Okay. Yes, sir.
The other question might be, do you want him at that board meeting? Typically for Boy Scout, Girl Scout projects, we haven't, we have enough information to tell the rest of the board, so.
Yeah, I mean, we should be able to do that with no problem. He could, if it's up to him, if he wants to come, just to, show yourself there and to make yourself known, and if anybody has any questions. But I would probably be at the meeting if you could.
I can see if I can go. I'm pretty sure I could.
Okay.
As long as I don't have anything interfering, I might be able to like email, like someone saying that I'll be there, but I might be able to do that.
Just let me know and I can.
Yeah.
Okay. My only concern is about like that concrete pad. Is that, do you ever have any problems with safety with kids? And I hate to be a stick in the mud, but kids are playing in there, and is that concrete thing? Is that going to be covered or anything, or are you going to have any?
Concrete pad is gonna be like in the ground.
It's going to be in the ground, so it's not going to be exposed or anything.
No, there's not gonna be anything exposed. I don't think.
Is this going to be just mounted on two
Yeah.
poles?
yeah.
So those will be sunk in the ground, probably like in a sonotube?
Yeah, and it's not too big.
So there's not going to be any platform?
Okay.
There's not going to be any concrete above ground, or
Okay.
maybe just right level with the ground?
Yeah, I was looking at the picture. That's why. I just want to make sure that 100% that it's safety. But it looks. I mean, it looks like a great project, and So I'm looking for a motion to approve from the board, unless anyone else has any questions or comments. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Finance and Ops Committee approves the Buddy Bunch and pavement art proposal and forward it to the full board for full approval.
Okay, I'll second it. Roll call for the approval. Mr. Mosher,
Yes,
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Marino is yes, so you're approved from this committee, and congratulations, and we'll send it to the full board, and I think you'll go pretty.
Want to be able to get a hard copy of the signature maybe,
Yeah,
so I can show it to the board and prove that the Eagle board that I did.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep.
I think we could probably give you a copy of the minutes of the meeting, which would have the approval in it.
and we could sign them, I could sign it as the clerk, or we can get the president to sign it for you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, and good luck and congratulations.
Yeah. He's gonna dig the holes.
He is?
Yeah, he told me.
That'll be the hardest part.
Yeah. I think so.
Does the board want to keep the updated, the one that has the clearer pictures of it?
Yep, we have it.
We have it, we do need one, so.
You do need one of those?
No, I don't need one,
Oh,
but that
okay.
needs to go to the minutes.
Yeah, with the minutes.
Okay, yep, we have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Alright.
Good luck.
Good luck,
Congratulations. Thank you for your time again.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Okay, so we're going to recognize Ms. Ringus for Pixelot cameras.
I just had it on, Dan. Right in the front. There you go.
There we go.
Thank you.
Just had to get close.
So I do have a little technology presentation here for you, just to show you exactly what I'm asking for. I'm asking for about $24,000 up front. We have the money in the expendable trust to cover the cost of and installation of these cameras. Installation is the big question mark right now, because depending who does it, whether we hire an outside company, whether our internal wonderful plant ops department and IT will do it, it may be a little less expensive for the installation. So what this is the Pixelot cameras are through the National Federation of High School Sports Network, who have been broadcasting big time athletic events for several years. So we have had the NFHS network in our gyms broadcasting the wrestling meet of champions, or the boys volleyball state championships, or things like that. So the nice part about these cameras is they are fully automated. You don't need a person to operate them. So I believe you have part of this information in your packet, but what you see there in the middle is the actual camera. And I actually held one. It's probably about this big around, about that tall. And there are 4 lenses, and you can actually see it more on the left side of this picture. See how the 4 lenses are sort of offset from each other? They don't move, they don't rotate. The installers and the Pixelot people and the NFHS network come in and they calibrate it to our facility so that the cameras and the lenses are in the exact spot that they need to capture our fields. So what it is, fully automated, it's weatherproof because 2 of the units would be outside. The computer on the left-hand side, that's where all the cabling comes in, because depending how far you put the computer from the camera, you need to run the cable. It also has a device that connects to our scoreboards. So when we broadcast, it has the time and the score directly from our scoreboard. It's not an additional input. And you also have the option to plug into it with audio. So sometimes we have our students who are interested in sports journalism that they could actually voice over the recordings. So it auto tracks, completely follows the motion on its own. Nobody is required there. So hopefully these links will work. I think I have to get out of here to show you the examples. So I just have a few examples of 3 different sports. Of course, it's not showing up there. Hold on one sec. I don't know why it's not showing. Yes. There it is. Keep. There we go. So here's one example. So here's a basketball example. And again, in the lower right corner, you can see the scoreboard, and that's just fed directly from their scoreboard. And of course, I want them to go up the court so you can see how it just automatically tracks them. One concern that was brought up is we would probably post in our facilities a sign just to let people know that the event is being live broadcast, and be aware if you're near the court or the field, you would be potentially on screen. So let me just show you another.
Lisa, how does it figure out
Isn't it awesome?
what? Yeah, who's moving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the technology that these cameras have. And like I said, we have the ability to live broadcast all of our events. We own the content, and that's the important piece. Once the event is over, we have the power to go into the system and say, okay, that's it. Live event's over, take it down, or we can leave it up. I can take the link and give it to our coaches for instructional purposes. And it also does communicate with the Huddle software, which many of our coaches use for instructional purposes.
What about ETV?
ETV, that's a great question that, we'll have to have that conversation with them. But if I can give them the link. Whether or not they'd be able to tap directly into it or not, I'm not sure. I have one more example here for you. This is just a lacrosse example. And again, it's all automated.
Yeah.
So it just follows the motion. You do have the ability, if we were to have, let's say, we could, probably not for halftime shows, but if we wanted to have the entire field of Stellos, they could also do a panoramic view and not follow the motion. Yeah.
But how do you configure that?
I just have to notify the FHS network ahead of time, and they can recalibrate the cameras.
Okay.
It's all done automatic through the wiring. Nobody ever has to go to the camera itself.
Were you doing a wide for halftime or something?
I don't know if we could change it in the middle of the event or not. Sorry. Trying to get back to my presentation. Pixelot. It's all big up there. There we go. So those were the examples. So the plan is I'd like to get 4 of them, put 1 in each of the large gyms, our wooden gym, our competition gym at each of the 2 high schools, 1 at Stello Stadium, and 1 at Holman.
At home?
At Holman for baseball, yep. So finances, one-time fee for the equipment. There's no annual cost. There's no cost for us to put anything up there. Because we're a large district, I talked them down from their original $4,750 per camera. If we sign a contract by the end of February, they'll give us each camera for $4,250. That does not include installation, which again, that's the big variable on the overall cost. The other nice part about this is we do have a potential to receive revenue and earn revenue. Because of the live broadcasting, people can either buy a monthly pass where we would get 10% of that. They could buy a seasonal pass if, your grandparents or whatever live in Florida and want to watch your lacrosse season. They could purchase just that spring season subscription. So Pixelot and NFHS Network sets that at $25. So whatever we wanted to charge above that, we get 100% of that.
So we could sell this to the city baseball or softball team at home stadium. We could
Potentially, I'm not sure because they're not high school whether or not the NFHS network would carry their events. I don't know. I haven't asked that question. Yeah.
So this is through the.
It's through high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, the revenue would then in turn go back into the athletic trust, which is where I would like to take the money, and that would help again for big purchases.
But we own the content. Can we stream the content to somewhere else?
Yep. Yep. Once we own the content, once the content is recorded, we then can do with that whatever we want to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So more on the finances, just chart form. So the cost of each camera, they estimate installation is between $1,200 and $2,000. So I kind of just guesstimated in there. So for each camera, it would be $5,950. Each of our teams does some fundraising, so they're going to benefit from this tremendously, especially with the integration into Huddle and things like that. So I've talked to all of my coaches, and they're on board with contributing $350 each program towards the cameras. And I have confirmation from Bishop Girton that they would contribute $5,000 towards the cameras. So the initial would be about $24,000, but ultimately after all of this, it would only be about $12,000 out of the trust.
Okay.
Oh,
So
you're so cool.
just looking for your approval to go ahead and spend all that money on these.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do you think more school districts might ask to use Stella Stadium because of this?
I don't know the answer to that question. They could ask. They might be playing at 2:00 in the morning because Stello Stadium is pretty busy already with the 3 schools that already use it. I'd be pretty surprised if they could find time.
I have a question. Let's say there's another venue where sport team, I don't know, if they build another stadium or something like that. Can you add on to the system?
Yes, each unit is independent, completely independent. So if we had these 4 and, I win Powerball and all of a sudden we have a turf field at each high school and we wanted to put another one there, we could do that. It would just be its own separate unit. Yeah, they're all independent. They don't connect to each other at all.
Have you personally seen this in action?
I have not personally seen one of the units other than samples that they've sent me, and those were only 3 of the ones that I've seen. I know Bishop Girton is putting one in their gym, and I know Kingswood Regional High School is putting one in their gym. So we would be only the 3rd district in the state that's jumping on board.
What's the maintenance cost on this? What's the warranty? How long? Is it a 5-year warranty? And then we purchase out in the event that the cameras need some, some updates or software. What's that process feel like?
That's a great question. I know off the top of my head, I want to say it was either a 3 or 5-year part warranty. When the representative came out and spoke to us about them in terms of what kind of maintenance it requires, it's just technology.
Right.
As we all know, technology is unpredictable.
You don't have to keep the lenses clean?
Nothing. They're weatherproof, waterproof. The thing when I picked it up, it was like a cannon. It was built well.
So it's,
Have you had,
uh,
so have you had conversations with Rick Ferenkopf about that technology, maintenance, and I would say kind of like the overall, like what's the plan in 10 years in terms of
Right.
this?
All the actual technology that's needed is a hardwired, normal, everyday internet connection. The one piece that is missing right now is internet at Stellos, which I'm in contact with both Nick Caggiano from Park Rec as well as Rick Ferenkopf from the school district about making sure we can get that up and running. But the technology piece, that I don't foresee our IT department doing any technology maintenance to the camera itself. That would come from the Pixel people.
My final question is, who's responsible for, are you the point person in terms of monitoring the cameras, and what type of professional development are they offering you for operation?
They have, the woman I'm dealing with, Kiki, will come up, train me and whomever else we want in terms of scheduling, but we can also just download our schedule, send it to them, and they will schedule it all for us.
Is that an extra cost?
Nope.
They just do that?
They just do that. It's part of the NFHS network because, again, the more content we put up for them, the more they're getting exposure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Good. We are also looking to put cameras at Stello Stadium, plus cameras to cover the skateboard park next to it. So it's kind of a joint venture between us and Park and Rec. So we're going to need internet access there anyway at some
Right.
point.
Cameras?
Yes.
Security cameras.
Security cameras.
Security cameras?
Yes.
So that'll be tied into our security system?
Yes.
Is that part of the grant we got? Can we use some of the grant that we received?
I
To
don't
defray
think
the
we did
cost?
that for the Stellos, did we?
No.
That was
we haven't done
strictly
that.
for schools themselves.
The grants we've received are specific things. We've already said we're going to use for such and such, you have to use it for that.
Right.
Mr. Mosher, do you have any questions or comments regarding this?
No, I have a comment. I think it sounds very good, but I'd like to have a little bit more information on it. For my own personal thing, because I remember, from some time ago when I was setting up a video thing on Long Island, and that was interesting. But the technology has increased so much, and it sounds really interesting and affordable.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. So I guess, go ahead, Ms. Van Twyver.
So the total cost to the grant, not the grant, but the
The trust.
trust is 11.8
At the end, yes.
at the
Yep.
end.
Yeah,
You'll be
initially,
upfronting.
exactly. Initially, we would do the purchase order for and again, it would be separate. It would be one purchase order for the actual units, but then there'd be separate, I'd either need to transfer money for Sean's materials that he might need for his people to be able to install it, or if we found an outside company that could do it all, it would be to them. But upfront, it would be $24,000, but final cost to the athletic department would be about $12,000.
And there is $48,000 in the expendable trust funds.
Quick question. So what do we need from Fun Ops is the mounting of the cameras?
Mounting of the cameras and probably the installation of the wires along the
Conduit,
wall.
yeah.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Because I don't envision in the gyms mounting the computer part near the camera in the gym. I'd rather have that like in an office someplace, in a secure place. That would be it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just reading from Kiki, the person you dealt with. I'm also working on getting a contact for you regarding Huddle, and I know you've mentioned Huddle a
Yes.
couple times. Is this going to lower the cost of Huddle?
It's not going to lower the cost of Huddle. It's going to be more on how they're going to integrate together more easily, more seamlessly for our coaches.
Okay.
Because right now what happens is coaches videotape an event and then they have to upload it to Huddle and then it gets dispersed to the kids. So this would be another advantage, is that would happen all automatically.
Okay.
So I guess you have some hurdles to overcome, and you feel confident that you can overcome these hurdles.
Yeah.
You've actually touched on them already, a lot of them. So my question is to the members of the committee. Would you like to make a motion to approve this and send it to the full board? Because I believe Ms. Gingrich said that she has to go get back. She'd like this done in February because she's under a time constraint
Or the cost goes up.
because of the cost, right?
I so move.
So a motion by Ms. Van Twyver to approve the pixel art cameras and forward to the full board for approval.
Correct.
I will second that motion.
And I'll give it a yes.
Okay, the motion says yes. Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino says yes, and the motion carries. 3-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, did we say when this was going to be installed and all? Or
Once we have the contract, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get the units in. So I'm hoping over the summer, so everything would be up and running, ready to go for fall season with our new scoreboards.
Which we haven't
Our
told
new
them about.
scoreboards?
Yeah, right.
Our new scoreboards? What was that?
Things to come.
I can a quick briefing on it. It's
Teaser.
probably a month or two away that we'll be presenting it to you, but we've been talking to a couple different companies about replacing the scoreboards at Stello Stadium. The large core scoreboard is in a state of disrepair. A good portion of it doesn't work. And we're looking to improve the sound system in the stadium. So we've talked to a couple of companies. We're still waiting for the proposals, but it sounds as though we may get the scoreboards for free. If there is an advertising piece to it. And they know what our prohibitions are against certain things, right?
Yeah.
It's all the policies. So we're working with them. We haven't got any hard numbers from them yet, but we think the price will probably be very good.
So do you think that this will help get attendance up at least at the November Thanksgiving?
Right. Nice scoreboards would definitely help. A good sound system would definitely help. Definitely help.
But your attendance at the other events is good?
Depends on the weather.
Yeah.
Depends on the weather.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Happy
Valentine's Day. Yes.
Wow.
So moving on to,
hockey.
item,
Contrast.
I will be at hockey.
That's funny.
Have a good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Visual of that.
moving on to item number 3, Chromebooks idea grant. And, I'm gonna turn over the floor to Mr. Donovan.
Yes. Okay, as part of our IDEA grant, this has been written into the grant, approved by the state for the grant, but typically anything over 10,000 I do bring to this board, whether it's for the operating budget or the grant, just so that you're aware of what we define as significant purchases. This set of Chromebooks have larger keyboards and larger screens because they're used by the special education students. They're being used especially for the statewide assessments that are coming up this spring. That's why we'd like to purchase them, and not only for the grant timing, but also to get them in so that they can be hooked up and ready for these students when they take the statewide assessment. So there's a couple of quotes here. There was a third one too, which was higher. It didn't get attached. There were 2 of the 3. But typically most of our purchases of Chromebooks have been from IT Insiders, and they do have the lowest price. So that's what the special ed department would like to do using the IDEA grant. And
Didn't we buy a whole bunch of stuff for them? Title I? Was it?
the Title I purchased a bunch for the Title I schools. This is more for the special education.
Special education.
Different. There could be a mix of some children, but
So
This-
what,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm trying to find a piece of paper. So. is this
right
it?
there.
Is it?
That's the holding thing.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Mosher if he has any questions about the Chromebooks.
No, but I can see it's very logical because the special needs, they would need the larger keyboards and the larger screen.
So there are about 300 of these?
Yes. Well, no, it's more like 224 of these.
I was rounding up. No, I just,
Write it down.
I should have rounded down, yeah, sorry, well, you know how inflation is.
Or go to 225.
Yeah.
You gotta watch that woman.
What did he say?
I didn't hear him.
You better watch that time, he said.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah, I said you gotta watch
No, I think you said to watch the time. I'm helping you out, Mr. Mosher.
Did he say something about that woman? Is that what I think I heard him say?
Let's just keep on moving.
I'll have to talk with you, Mr. Moshe. Okay, well, hey.
Go ahead, Ms.
I don't
Do you
have-
you don't have any questions?
No, do you wanna
Okay.
use it for,
Mrs. Otis,
special
you have
ed, I
any?
guess
No,
that's all.
no. So, I guess I would entertain a motion to approve.
Am I gonna be the motioneer tonight?
You were the motioneer.
Okay.
Is the chair allowed to make motions?
Sure you are, you're a member of this committee.
Mr. Mosher just so moved it.
Oh,
Okay.
did he? Oh, thank you,
Motion to
Bill.
approve. Mr.
Second.
Mosher. Okay.
I didn't realize I had so much power as an alternate.
Well, then there's only 2 of you.
Mr. Mosher, you, on the vote to approve the Chromebooks?
Yes,
Yes. Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, so the motion carries 3-0. Okay. We are going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the ESCO update. Again, Mr. Donovan?
Yes, and I will turn this over to Mr. Smith. Anyone we've been working on this contract for a while. And we sort of hit a couple of bumps in the road, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith since he put together the memo.
Okay, so a year ago, first let me tell you a little bit about energy performance contracting. It's a different means of contracting, construction type work, whereby you bring in companies that specialize in reducing your energy utilization year over year. They come in, they do an assessment of your buildings, they call it an audit. They may have 20, 30, 100 different energy reduction measures or methods, and then you select from them. Once you select the project and the scope, the size of the project, then they'll tell you what the guaranteed savings. So say the savings was $100,000 a year. If you didn't achieve that $100,000 savings, then they would write you a check for the difference.
Oh.
So that's why it's called energy performance contracting. So I was first approached with this method maybe 18 years ago, and things weren't quite as transparent back then. So everything would be transparent in the future as far as seeing their books. We went through this process this past year. I want to say late winter. We issued an RFQ, request for qualifications, and we had 9 responses. They responded in the middle of May. We spent the summer going through the proposals, looking at references and that sort of thing. Probably 8 of the 9 companies could have done the job. They were all very well known. A lot of Fortune 500 companies were associated with them. So we felt pretty good about the response. So we got through that response. We then had this committee actually doing the interviews for our 3 finalists, which were energy efficient instruments. They're actually out of Merrimack, and also Johnson Controls and Honeywell. Of course, everybody's heard of Johnson Controls and Honeywell because they're very large companies. We then, this committee and just went through this committee, wanted to award the contract to EEI, and it was literally right on the floor for the full board to take up action on that. And we got some objections from Honeywell that felt that they should have got the contract instead of EEI. We went back to the full board. The city attorney showed up. I think we did that in closed session. And his recommendation, bottom line, was to re-solicit the work. So it's kind of a quick summary of how we got where we are. He suggested that we send it out to all the 9. I said, we don't have to reissue this to everybody in the world, do we? He said, no, just keep it to the original ones who responded. Again, 1 of the 9 didn't respond properly. They were only looking at LED lighting. We're looking for much more than that. So in my mind, we've gone through the RFQ process. We've looked at their qualifications. We've looked at their references. We've interviewed them. We narrowed the field down to 3. And I would suggest that we go back to those 3 instead of the entire group. It's not too much more work to go back to the entire group, but again, we've already decided these are our top 3. So I'm looking for some guidance from you. If the Board of Ed decides whichever way we want to go, whether it's 3 or 4 or 8, then I'll prepare the request invitation to bid.
Is Honeywell in the top 3?
They are in the top 3. Yes.
So they would be satisfied.
Yes. So it's Johnson Controls, Honeywell, and EEI would be the 3.
This is all new to me, new to this committee. I've never been on finance and ops before. They're going to save energy for us. That means electricity and
Natural gas,
water. And water.
Yes.
Now, we put in all this stuff with the schools to reduce cost too. Is that over and above they think they can save us so much money? I forgot what you said. How does that?
Let's say the high school, for example, is Dan can probably tell you better than I can, but say $50,000 a month electricity.
Yeah.
They may come in and say, I can reduce that cost down to $40,000 per month. So you have a $10,000 per month savings. Whichever contract we end up with, we can bond this out, they can finance it, and those other means. It's the same as any construction project. You're going to look at a 20-year period at least. And what these energy measures that they give you, we each have their own individual returns on investment. If we do LED lighting, which is a very easy one, it's very quick savings, it may just take you 2 or 3 years to recoup your money. If you want to replace the chillers and the boilers because there are more efficient things out there, that return on investment is going to take longer. So maybe I should talk a little more about how they can save energy. So the easy one is the LED lights. You know, that can be just by itself a 70% reduction in the electrical use to lighting.
7%?
Just the lighting, not for the bill, just for the lighting piece of the bill.
Oh,
They do a very thorough audit. They could decide your insulation needs upgrading. So just the building envelope sort of thing. Fairgrounds Elementary, Ledge, Charlotte, we found that the space between the roof and the wall, there's a big gap there. And that's kind of how they did construction back then. But that, you think about it, that's just a good place for all the hot air to escape in wintertime. So they come in with infrared guns and they look for things like that. You know, they go out at nighttime and they'll look for the hot spots. It could be the windows might be more efficient windows these days, and there are. What else? Anything mechanical you can think of. Motors get more and more efficient over time.
Yeah.
So all those fans, the high schools have hundreds of fans in them. Just think of each air handler. We have 30 some odd air handlers in each high school. Each of those has several fans. So motors get more efficient motors. So it's really anything doing with electricity, heating, cooling the building. They can decide there's not enough wall insulation and come in with those measures.
yeah, so they decide what needs to be done. Then what's the cost to us?
Well, that's the finance piece. So when we went through this process, some of them offered that they could provide the financing themselves. It's a loan. It's the same as we could bond it out like we do most of our construction projects. Then the city owes the money. The city's going to owe the money regardless because for the third-party financing or the company themselves. So once we've agreed on the scope of work, meaning which measures we're going to do, then it's just like a regular construction project.
Sounds like it could be a big bill.
Potentially good. I asked actually EEI, once I thought we were going to be working together, typical high school, 400,000 square feet, which ours are, what sort of total bill might we see? And they thought 2,000, give or take. 2 million, I'm sorry. $2
I was just going to say, do it quick.
Yeah, before they change their mind. So 2 million. And so incidentally, I've also included those projects in the capital committee submittal this year. So they're already in the queue. It's up to the city to decide. But I think typically the way this has worked is the board of it will approve the scope of work. Then you'll send it to the alderman and say, I request that you fund this. And that's how we get construction projects done too.
And you don't have to do everything they ask.
No, you don't. You get to pick and choose which one of those measures you want to do.
Yeah.
The LED lights will be easy. I mean, we all
Is that the
know.
white light though? It has to be warm.
Yeah, we just did this at
Dr. Chris,
Dr.
didn't you?
Chris,
Yeah,
yes.
because I was there when the guys came through checking it out.
And last year we did it at New Searles and Pennachuck.
So are we talking about the 2 high schools? Are we talking about more?
This committee and the Board of Ed went along with last year was just to start with the 2 high schools.
Start with
Oh, okay.
These companies would love to do the entire school district,
Okay.
Yeah.
but we've never done this process before, and everybody felt more comfortable just. There's 2 big nuts with the 2 high schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And I talked to them. The new. I'm thinking they're brand new, right?
Yeah.
But they're 2002, 2004, so they're 14 years old at the youngest. Even since then, technology has improved dramatically.
Sure.
And just again with the lighting, the
Yeah, but-
LED is
some of those that we haven't renovated might be worthwhile doing first. You know, like Broad Street just got done in Sunset, and what were the other ones that we did?
Ledge, Charlotte, and Fairgrounds Elementary.
Yeah,
So
we
these
did a lot
bids-
of energy work on those as well.
Yeah.
But I know, for example, at Broad Street, it was not LED lighting that went in there.
no, but I mean, those that haven't been touched, like we did Broad, and those seems to me like that would be, wouldn't that be because they're much older schools than the two high schools.
Yes, it's really the board's decision on the scope of this. If you want to do just the two high schools and see, how does this work out? Is it going to pay off for us? Or you can do the entire school district. That's kind of your choice. The direction I was given last year was high schools.
Right, and that's what these bids are for.
Correct.
So we have, we're talking
Well,
about.
remember, I'm going out again, so I can change
Yep.
scope.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know enough about this to.
Well, there's sort of two pieces to it. Whether you go ahead, they'll come in, they'll do the audit, and they'll say, this is what we think we can do, and they'll guarantee it. Then it's the financing piece.
Yeah.
And the financing piece, you can go a number of different ways. Like Sean said, you could bond it. Now, it depends on the amount of money you're talking about and then the payback. You're not gonna bond something. If you get a payback over 4 years, you're probably not gonna bond that, because you'd wanna bond a longer term thing. So they have some financing options too, working with them. But we would only do the ones that make sense. And if the return on the investment is minimal, we may not even do it. But if it's a significant return, so like your example, let's take one of the older schools. The thing with the older school is, maybe we can change out a chiller unit or something, but to get the true benefit, you're gonna have to then add insulation and so you might want to do that as part of a construction or a renovation project.
JSSB.
Because it's a bigger thing.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the high schools where the base units are in very good shape, right? The envelope, relatively.
Yeah.
But if there's some things by changing out a piece of equipment, motors, things like that, and we can save money for relatively small dollars, then it makes sense. And then we'll get comfortable with the firm that we pick, and then we can move forward onto larger projects.
Well, I know that energy savings today is very, very important. So.
Mr. Mosher, do you have comments or questions?
Yes, excuse me. Sean, what is the cost per unit on conversion to the light emitting diode? I'm interested asking that question because I know the lifespan on the incandescent. They are the low pressure sodiums, right?
Well, incandescent, no. That's kind of think of your Thomas Edison,
Yeah.
the light bulb. That was just a filament, and that's really what incandescent is. High pressure sodium, halogen, those are different types of technologies.
Right.
But
What are we using now in the parking lots and for the LA?
we've pretty much switched everything over to LED.
Okay, and the replacement cost of a LED, we got anything in?
Not off the top of my head. I know when the Board of Ed approved the Dr. Crisp work, the project cost, there was about 600 light fixtures total, and our cost was about $130,000, I believe, for the project.
Uh-huh. Are we going to be able to take advantage of the cost savings long-term on replacement of the LED units?
Well, the energy reduction would be instantaneous. As soon as we install, we see a reduction on our bill. The other benefit to this is the maintenance goes down somewhat because incandescent bulbs you have to replace potentially a couple times a year. Fluorescent maybe every couple of years. These are supposed to last 10 years or more.
10 years or more. So maintenance cost on that will be somewhat reduced as well, right?
Right. I mean, when we do have to replace them, again, it's going to be 10 years from now, so who knows? But incandescents probably won't even exist anymore. And I think the cost of LEDs is going to continue to come down. That's really what we're waiting for the whole technology, is for it to evolve enough and then for the price to come down so we can take advantage.
Very good. Very good. Okay, sounds good.
But are these LED lights sort of like these?
Yeah.
You do what you want.
So the recommendation is to issue RFPs for the top three firms. That's the recommendation, Mr. Smith's memo. So what I want to get some idea of what the board members feel. Should we make a motion to approve?
Yeah, why not? Put out the bid, see what they say.
If I could, just to remind you,
Yep.
and I don't mind really one with the other. You could go the original 8.
Yeah.
It just takes more time for us to analyze it.
Well, I think we should be consistent because the previous board had approved just 2 high schools, and you know, you've already been through that process with the 8. So I would make a motion to approve issuing the RFPs to the top 3 firms, go along with your recommendation. I just want to get support from the other 2 members of the committee.
That's what the lawyer suggested, right?
The lawyer suggested to go back to the original 8.
Oh, the
Oh, he
original
did?
one.
He
Oh,
did.
he did?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's just Sean speaking. I don't think that's necessary. We've already been through a qualification process and reference checking process.
Okay.
We've already identified the top firms.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Not
Not yet.
yet.
The benefit could be, competition's always good, right? So
Yeah.
the more pricing you get, more likely you are to get a good price. You're more likely to get that with 8 firms.
Yeah.
Um,
So do you,
But the 8th firm may not provide the same quality as the first firm, so
Right.
it's
right.
a juggling.
But you don't think that you would have any trouble with the other remaining ones that you don't go back to?
I
You
don't
won't
feel so
complain?
because they already know they were out of the running.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, if I'm one of those firms and I was out of the running, am I even gonna bother with this? That, if we did all 8, it would be interesting to see. I don't think you'd get all 8 response. You may
Right.
get more than 3, but I don't think you'd get 8. You know, they have to spend time on marketing. They can only spend so much time.
Right.
If you get a 1 out of 10 chance, you're probably not gonna do it.
Dr.
I
Mosley?
think I guess the question I have for Sean is what was the rationale with Steve Bowden's recommendation about the 8? I think there were some legal pieces just to avoid potentially some bias that came up during the original process. Is that correct?
I don't recall exactly what he was saying about that. I got the sense he was just being cautious.
Yes.
He was legally cautious.
I just out there. It's not gonna hurt to go back out to those 8, but I also
Okay.
think it protects the district. That would be my recommendation.
Does it add a lot of extra time to it, or we're really not under a time?
No, this time I intend it's going to be a bid request, so they're going to have to give us hard numbers. I'm going to fill out a sheet.
Okay.
I'm going to tell them, don't repeat everything you already gave me in the RFQ,
Okay.
because there were some volumes over that thick.
Okay.
I just want a very simple response. Tell me what your numbers are, and Dan and I will talk about what the key things we should be asking for.
Okay.
What's your overhead? If we actually look at the construction, I want to know what your overhead, what your profit is. All those sorts of things we ask construction managers when we do this. So it's a matter of filling out a spreadsheet. So it's
Okay.
3 columns versus 8.
Right. So it doesn't really seem like it's an awful lot of extra
No.
work. So I think I'm going to make a motion to approve issuing the RFPs to all the firms for the energy performance contracting.
Second.
Second it.
Okay.
Second.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes?
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, so the motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I'm here for the next one too.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Solar update. Oh, I remember seeing a little bit of this on
All right,
TV.
so I'm going to move on to solar update, and that would be, again, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we've been looking at solar for almost as long as LED. I've been waiting for the technology to improve, for the price to come down, and various other aspects of this industry to come to fruition. So this past fall, we received, this committee received presentations from basically 3 vendors with 3 different approaches. And I'll go in order kind of the way I have it on the memo. The first firm came in and wanted us to sign on for, to be part of a solar farm. So solar farms is a series of solar arrays. You've probably seen pictures of them all over the place. Out in Arizona, there's fields of these things. And typically they're placed in New Hampshire. The first one we heard about was going to go on the landfill at Milton, New Hampshire.
Yep. I know exactly.
There's other ones that are planned, at least for the state. So there's no obligation to us. We just buy our electricity from them. It's all mixed together on the electrical wires anyway in their networks. And the benefit we got from it is a check every year for, I believe it's about 1 cent per kilowatt hour we consume.
We just have to give them land,
We give them nothing.
but they have to put them somewhere.
It doesn't have to be in Nashua.
Does it?
It could be anywhere in the state. It could probably be out of state if they wanted to. We're just agreeing to be a part of their solar farm.
Oh, cool.
So they pay for everything.
Yeah.
We just sign on that we're going to get our electricity from them. In addition to that, we would get a check from them based upon our consumption, which is about 1 cent per kilowatt hour. So that would be, in our case, they were estimating $135,000 a year. So we're doing nothing, we're just getting a check written to us.
How would this conflict with a company we just okayed you to?
Coming a track, well, with them, no, it wouldn't touch at all.
They
What would
wouldn't be concerned with this at all.
No, because what they,
Save-
so they have a whole series of panels in these fields.
Yeah.
And each panel they know generates a certain amount of electricity. So they're going to say, okay, this portion of my field is going to be dedicated to Nashua. And this portion is dedicated to Holly, wherever those places are. It could be municipalities, it could be companies that are signing on for this. If our consumption goes down, which it would with these ESCO companies we're talking about, then they just give us a smaller piece. They assign it to somebody else. And our check would go down accordingly. So if we reduced our energy consumption as a district by, I don't know, how many kilowatt hours? If we consume 13.5 million kilowatt hours a year, and we reduce that down to 10 million kilowatt hours, then our check would go down to 100,000, say 135. So there's some pitfalls associated with this, so let me continue with that. And the figure they gave us was we potentially save $3 million over a 23-year period. Part of that is they expect Eversource's rates to continue to go up. We've been going to third-party agreements, which you've approved just this past year. So we're now with that Gara Energy for a 3-year period that started in November. Our kilowatt that we're paying to them is 6.9 cents a kilowatt hour. If you take a look at just the bill you get at home from Eversource, it's probably more like 11.5, 12 cents kilowatt hour. So it's you as a homeowner also have a choice to get your electricity from a third party. So I go to North American Power, and it's a couple cents off of what Eversource would normally charge. It's something you sign up for every year.
I'll get them,
But it's worthwhile looking into. It
Yeah.
won't save you a ton of money, but every little bit helps. I'm just going to go through these other 2 methods first, and I'll talk about some of the pitfalls. So the second contractor came in, his game plan was to install solar on our roofs, and they would own it, they would maintain it. We would just buy their electricity from them. So think of, here's our meter coming in from the outside, all the energy coming in, and just on this side of the meter, they're going to put their box, which shows how much we consume. Eversource is going to see a reduction in how much we use from them because we're generating our own electricity. It's possible to generate more than what you consume, in which case some goes back into the grid and you get credits for those. More likely we won't be doing that. It's take an enormous grid on your roof. So part of that deal was we would purchase electricity from them instead of Eversource from the array for the number in that second bullet there, just under 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's not as good as our 0.6 or 6.9, but it's that's what it is. Then they were saying that it would escalate at 2% per year thereafter. Their opinion, I tend to agree, is that's still going to be way below Eversource's rates. This sort of a approach is really only feasible on new roofs. So we just did Dr. Crisp 2 summers ago. That's a new roof. Should last 30 years. Our warranty is 20 years. But usually roofs last 10 more than the warranties, at least the rubber roofs. So we can do that one. The Fairgrounds Middle School roof, we're going to be doing that this summer. They'd be a good place for them to put solar on top of there as well. We mentioned Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable earlier for this ESCO contracting process. Those roofs go back to the early 1900s. So they're approaching 30 years old. Still holding up. There's not a whole lot of leaks. So it's, but it is well beyond its warranty. But I wouldn't put solar on those roofs. It just makes sense. Third approach was that they come in, they install the solar panels on our roofs. We pay for the whole process. We get all the savings right away, but there's a cash outflow that costs to do that. So I asked the second 2 contractors to take a look at Dr. Crisp, and just because it was a recent roof. And they gave me some numbers, potential savings we could achieve. Wouldn't quite pay the entire electrical bill that we get every month, but it's significant. Again, it's going to help to reduce our energy consumption so we can get more teachers or pairs or whatever you're looking for. That's the superintendent's thing. I'm just concerned about the solar. So a couple of other additional thoughts. Whatever roof we would put these solar panels on, if we choose to go that route, would have to be determined to be structurally sound, so it can carry the additional weight, not only for snow loads but also for this. They'd be responsible for determining that. I've talked about different percentages and terms and warranties, and everything's negotiable. I mean, if we do an RFP, I'm going to again have them put their numbers down, and then we'll get down to the best deal for us. And then we'll still negotiate with them. You know, we just, so everything can change. I'd mentioned the potential cost if we were to pay for the upgrades. It sounded to me like it's between $550 and $750. So if we had to pull a bond or however we chose to finance it. What else
How
here?
many bonds can we do?
Depends on the city's bonding capacity. I mean,
We've got bonds for the work that we've done already,
the
right?
last 5 schools, there are bonds out there.
Yeah.
The high school bonds should be coming off the books here pretty soon. Those were pretty large.
Pretty large ones.
That was 142 million total, those 2 schools. So I think that was a 20-year period, Dan.
We'll have an update in the budget when we get a little further. I'll give you a sheet, shows you the existing school bonds.
So part of this whole process for the Capital Improvement Committee is we're getting the information to Dave Fredette, who's the city treasurer, and he's kind of the one that tries to figure out all these bonds. Because it's not just us, of course. It's the fire department. It's the Broad Street Parkway. It's all those things. So they have to juggle, and prioritize. So we can go through this whole process, and they can say, "Sorry, we can't afford you." Then we think about what to do next.
Have you seen any other instances of other districts doing solar on their schools?
Yes. Yep. In fact, it's coming attractions here as I work my way down. In fact, it's the next. Well, the tree hugger part of me says this is really going to greatly reduce greenhouse emissions.
Okay.
Right. So it's a good thing for the planet. It's less. It's going up in the atmosphere and all that good stuff. So local school district I'm aware of that have done these installations are right next door to Hollis.
There it is right there in front of me.
If you go to the center of Hollis, like the 4 corners, you go past the primary elementary school, kind of a reddish looking building, that has solar panels on the top.
I'm getting tired, that's why I'm looking at the bullets down here.
The Rochester School District has put this on a number of their schools, including their high school. I went to a conference up at Inner Lakes, which is in Meredith. They actually put their solar array on the back of the school. There's a good sized hill, so the solar array's on the hill.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an option to us. We don't have to put things on the roof.
Right.
But they're probably a little safer from prying fingers and that
How
sort
about
of
the
thing.
field out front?
Which field?
The field where they play all those sports part-time?
Oh,
Oh, and the front of the north, I'm sorry. I forgot where we were.
well, that field basically behind the school, between the school and the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a potential place. I mean, the school band practices on there. I think some sports teams also practice there on occasion.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's something, you just think of the, so the North High School site is kind of in a bowl. So there's pretty high dirt mounds on either side of it.
Yeah.
So you can put solar panels on those too. You probably can only put them one side. You want them to be south facing.
Yes, right.
So the field behind the North High School would probably be the best place for it, or on the roof itself. So a little bit of uncertainty in the whole solar field because there are new tariffs on solar panels. The president has announced. We're not sure what that's going to do to the price, and the various assumptions I've made up to this point.
Trump did that?
I wasn't going to give any names.
Well, I just.
Has that been done already?
Is it
or
done?
Passed?
I don't know if it's official. I heard it was
Why would
coming
you
into
do
actions. Because,
Yep.
it could get very political in our
Let's
conversation.
not get into an economic discussion there.
I want to ask Mr. Mosher if he has any comments or questions regarding this issue.
Actually, could I continue?
Yeah.
I just have a few more points I
I
want
thought
to
you were
make.
done, I'm sorry.
I'm almost there.
I have, not a lot of questions. I think that solar is a coming thing, and I know that the price of solar panels is going down little by little. I have a friend in the west side of New York who has solar panels on his roof, and he has not had to pay for hot water in, 30 years.
30.
I think it's a good thing, but you have to be very cautious about it because there are a certain amount of legislation that's coming up out of the west part of the country that will be very interesting to watch, and also the developments of the panels and how long they last, and their lifespan, and if there's any other problems that have come up with them. So the area is wide open for a lot of discussion, a lot of data points to be made. So we have to be very careful about it.
So he's got that.
You were still talking about the uncertainties. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well,
Go
just
ahead.
to answer Mr. Mosher too,
Yeah.
the contractors I've talked to say these panels should last 40 years.
Okay,
So it's not to say some won't break or, I mean, in 40 years the technology is going to change significantly, I'm sure.
right.
So, but they're supposed to be pretty rugged. It's not the old days when you used to actually have, when I was at the Coast Guard Academy, I had this big solar array on the side of the gym. It was just all water running through.
Yeah.
That was the old technology.
I remember
You just
those,
tried to
40
heat the
years
water
ago.
and you circulate it.
Yeah.
But now it's all just digital.
Right.
So New Hampshire is looking to pass a law. Looks pretty likely to pass. It's gone through the committee already. That will allow you to get your energy not only from a third party, like we are with the GARE, but also be a member of a solar farm. Right now it's against the law in New Hampshire. And that looks like that's going to change.
Okay.
One of the things about having a contract with a GARE or any other company is if we buy our electricity now from somebody else, then they're probably going to want, in fact, the company we've talked to does want, there's a penalty to be paid. And in our case, it was something like $400,000, I think. We don't want to do that.
No.
One of the companies said, don't worry about it. This is one of the solar farm companies said, don't worry about it, we'll pay it for you. So everything's a little bit up in the air. Anything else? I've already talked about negotiating. So what I suggest we do is We can play it slow on this one. Again, we're not at, the state still has to pass that law. But we can at least send RFPs out for a solar farm. We thought they were just one. They represented them to us as the only game in town. But 2 weeks ago, another guy knocked on my door and said, well, we can do this too. So we have to go out. I think there's enough at stake here to get that.
Yeah, I have two questions. Why do you think, it seems like if we have all this competition for energy, why you think Eversource's prices are going to go up? It seems to me that they would have to drop their prices so that they didn't lose their base customers.
Okay, well, I think demand's going to continue going up. Eversource is also getting out of the business of generating electricity. They're selling, I think they just reached agreement to sell the last of their generating plants. So they're strictly going to be a delivery company. They will be the poles and the wires to get the electricity to you.
And the other thing is, this thing is getting so complex. Energy stuff. I mean, how do you keep track of it all? I mean, you got solar farms, you got the third party. It just seems to me like it'd be a very complex thing to keep track of where your costs are. And
We do it now.
yeah.
I mean, we're tracking Eversource, we're tracking Agera, we're tracking Liberty, who gives us our natural gas, but we buy our natural gas from a third party there as well.
Yeah, but
The only
we
ones
got
that
a deal
were-
with the city on natural gas, right? Didn't we have a deal with the city?
Well, they went in with us
Yeah.
for that deal.
Yeah.
Electricity, we're in a separate. We
Separate.
just agreed to go a different direction.
Dr. Mosley. Dr. Mosley.
Just finish whenever you finish. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
I'm sorry.
Just a couple things. I think it doesn't hurt to go out and kick the tires and to see what comes back. I think long term, I think the district needs to think about some alternatives. And I think even the city has discussed about partnering with the schools to kind of think about how we're going to deliver energy. And I think, I sat in and was part of many of the conversations prior to this meeting about the solar panels and the farms, so I'm pretty familiar about the content and what's being offered. At some point, either it's now or later, the district and the city has to talk about some type of alternative resource or source to get our electricity. So to start small or start at one of our schools is a nice way to kind of pilot that.
Yeah.
You think about and I think Sean said it best, there's some negotiation there because we have options. I mean, we have options to connect with putting something on our roof or a solar farm and connecting that way.
Yeah.
You think about the $3 million over 30 years, and that was a concern because it's going to take so long to get $3 million. And I think that's part of the negotiation. So I would like to see, if we're going to go in on this, I'd like to see savings a little bit earlier than just 30 years.
Right.
I mean, it is unlikely, maybe for me, no one's going to be sitting here in 30 years saying, $3 million. So I would like to see, savings. What does it feel and look like after 5 years or 3 years for the district, and if it's worth it?
So, these are requests for proposals that you're asking to put out. You said you're taking it slow, and this would be like, as Dr. Mosley said, a sort of a pilot, feeling out how we can do it in the district. So, I want to know how the committee members feel about this. Does anybody want to make a motion, or you want to? It's up to maybe.
Can I ask, when was this discussed before in this committee? I want to look at the tapes.
I think we started in September.
September,
Yeah.
October, November, I believe.
All right, thank you.
You'll see different preceptors coming in.
There were
That'll help
three.
me a little bit, because this is very
Yeah, I mean, again,
out of my field.
there's no rush to do this.
Right.
If you want, we can arrange. They all offered to come back.
Okay.
So if you wanted to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, we could arrange that.
But I think my suggestion or an idea that I had with it, if we're gonna do this ESCO, we talked about that a few minutes ago. So we go out, we end up choosing an ESCO. I think before we put anything on our roofs, I'd like to get they're the experts in energy. They'll be our teammate, right? Let's
Yeah.
get information from them before we put anything in
That's
the
why
works.
I asked before. Yeah.
Though, the other thing, I think though, sending out an RFP or RFQ, whatever, for the solar farm itself isn't a bad idea, because if that law changes, we could just say, boom, we're gonna do it, and we get some immediate savings.
Mhm.
And we're not putting anything on our roofs, and why not just go ahead and do it? So I think, and if the law changes, a number of other people may wanna jump in. We may, if we don't get in on the first round, may have to wait a while. We
Well,
don't
couldn't
know
the
that
city
yet.
join us too?
Sure they could.
And
We've had that conversation. I've talked to
Yeah.
their purchasing, Dan Coogan.
Yeah.
He works for the chief financial for the city, and they're looking at this also.
But the thing to remember is, we work with the city. We're the big guys in this.
I
The
know.
city's the little guy when it comes to facilities and buildings and savings. They want to link with us because
well,
we
that's
got the volume.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
not the other way around. When it
No, I
comes to-
understand that, but every little bit helps.
Sure, and I certainly want to, everyone
I'll be
in
glad to
Nashua,
join it
let's
too if
say.
you like.
Yeah, you're able to
You might
spot
have to ask yourself if somebody's writing a check to us. Do you want to go to the city or the school department?
School department, of course. Is that quick enough?
There you go.
Well, that's another question.
Yeah, like the that other money that comes into the city and we never see any part of it.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve the recommendation, Mr. Smith's recommendation to issue 2 RFPs, one for solar farm and the other for options associated for leased and owned solar panels.
I second it.
On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. So motion passes 3-0.
Now, I would like to answer a question that Mrs. Van Twyver had asked before,
Yes.
and that was why Eversource has not reduced their prices to match up with other suppliers.
They're not a supplier.
I think
Is that what you said?
I think you answered I think Mr. Smith answered the question.
Eversource has not reduced its price, and one of the things that comes to mind is that looking at the history of our electric service over the past 30, 40 years, at least while I've been here, that New England Electric, in order to comply with environmental laws, they had to put in a lot of expensive scrubbers and screens and all kinds of things like that to keep the pollution down, and especially because they were burning coal, there was a problem with mercury being emitted. So they had to spend a tremendous amount of money to accomplish this, and the added machinery. And our legislature, in being so good as they are, they said that this was a stranded cost, and it was to be shared by their customers. So when they put the rate increases in, it was to cover the cost partially of some of this other very expensive equipment that they had to install, and we, as the consumers of the electricity, had to contribute our share. So there you go.
Yeah.
Northern Pass will do the same thing. They're going to get hydropower and
That
the
got shot
option.
down, though, right?
Yeah, it's been shot down. At least for now, it has.
As long as they don't put those whirly gigs in. The wind stuff.
Windmills. I had an idea to put those in some school roofs at one point, but no, we haven't done it.
I don't like that.
So we're going to move on to number 6 on the agenda, which is a special review audit. And I believe that would be.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Donovan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Take care, Sean.
Special revenue account? Audit.
No, this
Special
is
revenue-
student activity funds.
Oh, I remember this thing.
So each year, we have an audit done. Actually, the board has the audit done. This is something that typically most boards do. You don't have to do this, but it's probably a good idea. Just keep in mind, all these funds, these are all funds generated by students, for use by students.
Mhm.
And when you look at the book, we have many funds, especially at the high schools. Pages and pages, we have thousands of different funds that are tracked separately. So a student group will get together, they'll fundraise, and then they decide what to do with those funds. There are also some things like at elementary schools, a lot of them, they have a book fair or something. So those funds go in, they're more substantial at the elementary
Most
level.
importantly, it's not part of the operating budget.
Exactly. But, so each year the audit is done, they come in, they review not all the records, but it's an audit, so they review various records from each one of the schools. We work with the schools each year to make sure that they follow the right process as far as getting the right signatures, the check signed by the appropriate people, that an invoice is attached. And each year, we probably end up with maybe 5 or 6 issues that they found something where a check was written and the approval form wasn't attached, or there wasn't an invoice or something like that. So if you look in the book, if you look on page 27, you'll notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different instances where maybe a form wasn't approved. We went through, there were probably 7 or 8 of these. When we met with the auditor, we cleared 2 or 3 of them up, whether it was just a mix-up, maybe the piece of paper wasn't in the right place. But there's a couple of them where, the withdrawal authorization form was missing. So maybe the check was written, they had a copy of the invoice, but they didn't have the withdrawal form approved by the right person. It's not typically that, but we have a process, so we try to get them to follow the
I
process.
think you did very good. We only had 5 issues.
Yes, and you think how many checks are written?
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of
Yeah,
checks
there's
written
lots
every
of
year.
fundraisers, yeah.
So it's really, it's not too bad. Now, the other thing on page, they do a mini balance sheet here. On page 2 of the report, gives you a sense of how much money there is, $682,000 in funds the Nashua School District has. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Last year it was $727,000, so it went down about $45,000. I sort of looked at each one of the schools to see where the biggest difference was at the South High School. They had an account called ELO, which stands for Extended Learning Opportunity, Hawaii. A bunch of them went to Hawaii last year, so they say they got a lot of money together. That fund is a lot lower this year, so maybe they're not going, or a much smaller group is going. I'm not sure what the deal is.
Which school was this?
At South High School.
Oh,
If you look at,
I think I saw a sign for France in North, maybe.
yeah, I
Going
know
somewhere this year?
yeah, maybe they are, but this sort of ELO thing. So that had a very high value last year because it was saving up to go on their trip. They went on the trip, and as we know, to go to Hawaii isn't cheap. So it's,
No,
The
I checked
funds
the
are a lot
airfare, it's $1,000.
Paradise is expensive.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we've had a few instances of findings, but all in all, it's okay. And the auditors did sort of, write a letter basically to the Board of Education describing the process and that they're relatively comfortable with
So here's
our
Pottery
process
Club
and our
North.
controls. What's that?
Pottery Club North, $1,470. Pottery Workshop. Another. Did you find anything unusual in what they were spending their money on?
No, I mean, we review them. We'll go through, and if there's no activity in one of the accounts during the year, then we'll reach back to the school to say, hey, is it on hold for a reason? Is that club ended? If so, why don't you, have the people that set the club up transfer the funds somewhere else? The other thing, there's each graduation class, if you look on the top of the high school pages, each of the freshmen, sophomore, junior, they start fundraising as freshmen, and then when they get to the senior year, typically a lot of times they'll, like one group paid for the sign out in front of South High School back a number of years ago. Another group will, so they typically do fundraisers through the whole 4 years, and then they'll take those funds and usually give something back to the school. Sometimes they could just have a giant party with them if they wanted to. They're their funds, they can do whatever they want with them.
I think they ought to donate $683,000 to the operating.
That would be highly irregular. So,
It's a lot of money for 12 schools, 17 schools.
17 schools?
Is Brentwood in here too?
No, I don't
No,
think they have.
they don't do any fundraising?
So, that's just the findings, report to that each year. You'll see probably the invoice next month for it on the operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
Yep.
Mr. Mosher, do you have any comments or questions?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry?
Over the years, I've watched that those funds go up and down a little bit. And it's always the same. They never find anything that an active account. So, yeah, if we could get them to close them out, transfer some of the funds, and do the right thing with it, be all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. So I'm just reading from this letter. It says the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. Encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management in performing and completing the audit. So thank you, Mr. Donovan. Unless anyone has any questions? No? Well, okay.
Do we need to,
Accept and place on file, probably.
yeah, I move that we
Oh, okay.
accept and replace on file the audit report for the school department's agency funds, student activity funds.
Okay, I second the motion.
Yeah, seconded.
Mr. Mosher, on the motion? Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, the motion carries. And that is to, what is that again, place on file?
Place on file. To accept and place on
Accept and
file
place on file.
the student activity funds audit report
Okay,
for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2017.
okay, so our next on the agenda is the fiscal year 2018 January transfer report.
See the transfer.
That's Mr. Donovan, I believe?
Okay, so there's, as I mentioned last month, anything over 5,000 you need to approve. Between 1 and 5,000 is for informational purposes. Okay, the first one is a transfer. Our copy charges were higher, and if you remember the budget presentation, the copy budget is 8,000 higher. We needed $7,500 to cover because the way the copy charges work, maybe we'll get a credit back, but we pay half of what our estimate is at the beginning of the year. And then when you get halfway through the year, you pay the other half of what you think the estimate is, and then they true it all up come the end of school. So it could be a little bit more than that, it could be a little bit less than that.
From the heating fund?
I took it from heating fuel, yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Heating
just
fuel
that
is
finding 7,500 this time of year isn't really easy. But when we get into the details, you'll see why I chose heating fuel. So needed to do that entry to pay that bill. The next one is, the next couple are basically being done by the schools. Keep in mind, we allocate a certain amount of money to the schools. They budget for it, and then as the year goes on, things change. You know, they may say, I planned on buying some supplies, and then they realize they didn't need them, or equipment, or vice versa. So the second one is Fairgrounds Middle School. They're transferring $5,400 from a supply account to computer equipment and software to purchase 30 Chromebooks. The next one is Nashua High School North, and they're basically moving something, once again, from supplies to equipment. And if you if you recall, when you walk in, they have that TV monitor there. I guess something went wrong with the monitor, so they're replacing the monitor. I think when I went in last night, I noticed that it wasn't there any longer. So they transferred money for that. The next one is Fairgrounds Middle School. You can see they're moving from a number of different equipment and supply accounts down to other equipment and supply accounts. Basically, they're moving the money from the tech ed department because they don't need the equipment they thought they might need, at least this year. And they're going to use it for science department and repair work and the FACS. And then the final one is Nashua High School North again, and they're taking it from supplies to equipment to purchase a new large window shade in the special ed since it is broken. So
Is that one of those automatic up and down?
I'm not sure if it's automatic or not.
$886. New large window shade in special ed. How did it get broken?
Didn't ask.
Just
This-
old, I guess.
It might be age, I don't know.
So, I move the, do we need to accept this
You know,
transfer
there's
report?
some over 5,000, so you have to.
Yeah. I move to, accept, the transfer report for January 2018 and to move it to the full board for approval of the items over 10,000 or 10,000 or above,
5,000.
5,000 or above.
I second the motion. On the motion, Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Swyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, so the motion carries. Move and accept the transfer report to the full board for approval. Okay. We're gonna move on to the January fiscal 2018, fiscal year January 2018 financial report. And that would be Mr. Donovan again. Yes.
Okay, so I'll run through this rather quickly. If you go to page 1 of the first report, wages full-time, this number is 5.8 million. It's a little bit less than the last couple of months that were 4 weeks. That's because the hourly people don't work the Christmas week and they don't get paid. So, and that payment would be the first week in January. So the first payroll in January was lower than a typical payroll because paras, food service people don't work those weeks, so they don't get paid.
Where do you see 5?
If you're looking
Five
right
point, the top
at
there, right there.
5.830 million.
Oh, I see, the MTD expended.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, that's the month to date, so that's the column we'll be looking at for the most part. And same for wages part-time, so they're slightly less than the last couple of months because of the holiday. Overtime is lower than it was the last couple of months. Interestingly enough, I went back and looked at the overtime. The overtime through 7 months of this year compared to the overtime of 7 months last year is almost exactly the same. It's pretty interesting. So it's not going down, but it's not going up, at least through January.
So overtime is what, for those teachers who do?
No, most of the overtime is
Custodians.
mostly the custodial
Oh,
maintenance
custodians.
staff.
Yeah, okay. Oh.
Teachers, if teachers work extra hours, that would go into the additional hours.
Mhm.
Though occasionally it will be a mischarge in this account, but for the most part, most of those dollars are time and a half overtime.
Isn't it funny? I always just think of teachers and not the rest of the world.
Yeah, there's a lot more of the world around. Okay, and then if you look at the longevity account, you'll see 708,000, and you'll see amount remaining to the right of that of negative 323. So what happened there was the longevity is paid to most of the unions except for the paras the last week in January. When the city payroll processed it, they doubled the amounts to all the teachers. So if you were supposed to get 1,000, you got 2,000. So there was an error made Not 100% sure how it happened, just am aware that it has happened. They were in the process of getting that money back. Emails have been sent to all the employees that received the extra money. Some of them have paid it back already. My wife received 2 longevities. I told her just pay it all back in one paycheck. Some people are paying it back over 2 or 3 paychecks based on, deductions and things like that. So we should see that number be a negative number over the next couple of months in February and March,
Should be
because
half
the
of
people
that,
should be paying that. Well, everyone wasn't overpaid. The teachers were, but not all the other groups were overpaid. So it's not quite half, but.
Yeah, I understand.
But it was certainly troubling when it happened. It happened,
But don't they make, not quite a few, but it seems like they've made some mistakes in the past that
They have made some mistakes, yes. So that's obviously, we'll be hopefully collecting all that money, and I'm sure all our employees are well aware they got money they didn't deserve, and I would think they would be more than happy to give it back to us, as they should.
It's embarrassing.
Okay, and then, other than that, retirement pay, there were a couple of, there was a para and a custodian that retired. Most of that 13,000 was their extra, their vacation. So, that account, when you look at all the labor accounts, we know we've overspent on versus budget on retirement and separation pay. The other big negative, like I said, is longevity, but that's gonna be going the other way as time goes on. Fringe benefits, like I said, most of those are from the city, not a concern at this point. The next set of accounts, the professional technical services, that accounting and auditing service, that's where you're gonna see a $14,500 charge for the audit that we just reviewed earlier. That'll probably show up next month. Other than that, nothing too different than normal this month. Okay, our utilities, always keep a close eye on this. And so the electricity, it was we've spent year to date $1,067,000 there. Year to date, last year at the same time was $1,136,000. So we're spending less electricity year to date. That's a good thing so far. The heating gas, we had been below 2, but keep in mind, we had that significant cold spell.
13 days of wonderful weather.
So basically, we're at 299,000, and last year we've basically caught up. We were even, but now we've caught up with that cold spell. So the key to the heating gas is going to be the next couple of months, right? And keep in mind, the invoices that hit were like a month behind. So we got some come during different parts of the month, but we probably got the cold spell covered, but we'll still have significant costs in this account in the next 3 months, and then we'll have a good sense of where we stand. But so far, we're in reasonably good shape. Compared to last year, we're pretty close. And we did have savings in that account last year. Last year, we spent about $768,000, and we had $1 million budgeted. So I'm hoping there's some excess there to help with the out-of-district tuition. And then the water, we're pretty much online with where we were last year. It's about $3,000 difference. So from that point of view, we're okay. Other property services, most of these are under Mr. Smith's purview. He does a good job tracking this. Plus, with the way the system works, you can't overspend if you don't have the money in the account anyway. It doesn't even allow you to cut a purchase order. So we have that built into the system. Okay, other services, took a look at telephone. Basically, we've spent 76 this year. That's a little bit more than we spent last year. Some of that just might be the timing of the bills. It's fairly close, but it is a little bit higher so far. I'm hoping at some point, and I did speak to Mr. Fahrenkoff, that we could start to reduce some of these lines with our new phone system. So I did talk to him. He hasn't really cut any lines yet, but we're hoping that we're gonna be able to do that later on this year and next year.
The old lines or the new ones?
Yeah, the old copper lines, because now it's voice
Yeah.
for IP, so we don't need as many copper lines, so we should be able to save some money on the copper lines.
We haven't.
We haven't done it yet, and I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe that's a question you can ask him in a week and a half when he's at the budget committee. But we haven't cut them yet.
Yeah,
The system is up now.
it's been up for a while.
Yeah, a few months.
Few months.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't,
Didn't
by
it
the time we got it,
last summer, right?
no, but by the time it was in everywhere, it wasn't until November that we had all the schools up.
Okay.
Okay, then the bottom of that, other services, you've got your three large items. You've got regular transportation, sped transportation. Those are spending according to plan at this point. And then tuition out of district, that's gonna be the big issue. It was last year, it's going to be this year. I took a look at the sheet again. What I'm gonna start to do too is we prepare, well, special education prepares it, we review once a month, but then going forward now. So I want to take a look at sort of student by student and compare that to where we were last year. This is the first time we'll be able to have enough data to do that. That's not something I can certainly share with the world, but we'll take a look. We did have, I just noticed a new student this year that's a $180,000 student. We didn't have that student last year. So there's, bang, right off the,
Where did that student come from?
student was in the district, but not out of district.
Yeah.
So now that student's out of district at a very expensive facility. So that's one of the ways that this can really, it's so difficult to manage, it's so difficult to estimate. One student, $180,000. So, but that's what it is. It is what it is who was that? Bill Parcells?
Yes.
All right.
Or she's doing good.
Okay, supplies and materials, not too much there. Those are mostly smaller accounts. It's part of it's Sean's things, and then part of it's school items. All those accounts are in fine shape at this point. Indirect costs, those will be coming in. We'll be booking those entries over the next few months, so we'll be getting more revenue in those. The equipment accounts are 80% spent in total, but typically, you're going to see that we do most of the spend on the computer stuff early in the year, so we can use the equipment during the year. And so basically, I just took a look at the bottom on page 4. You'll see that we're 51% spent. So we're through 7 months, but keep in mind, from a school point of view, we're basically 5 out of 10 months, right? So we're halfway. It's at 51. So I went back and said, where were we the last 2 years at the end of January? In fiscal year 17, we were 49.65%, and in fiscal year 16, we were 51%. So just some of the things I do to check to make sure that we're okay. I don't want any big surprises.
Yeah.
We will have, as I get into, we're done with the budget, and then I'll start in April, start forecasting this year. So I'll do a line-by-line review. I'll spend a lot more time with the detail of the payroll, and I'll get a sense. So as we get into April and May, I'll have a better sense of sort of where we're going to end up. It's always an interesting process.
I know you love your job. You just love figuring these things
I
out.
like that part.
You do, yeah.
Any questions, Mr. Mosher?
No,
Okay.
everything,
Do we have to accept this?
I don't think we did last time.
No, I don't know if you have to. It would go on the consent agenda when it shows up. So.
Okay.
So I thank you very much, Mr. Donovan. And I think that's everything on the agenda.
Well, look at that, you did it in 2 hours.
2 hours.
Congratulations.
We'll get another hat. Why don't I?
But you don't.
Kidding.
So I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We'll be back here some, nope, we'll get the north.
All those in favor?
Aye.